How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Communities Connected. We are with episode 86. And again, we are back with YouTube, so this is kind of cool for me. I'm still learning how to run it, run into a few little issues, and we're just rolling along. There's been a lot going on today. There's super exciting things that have happened today. I've seen something that was not so exciting to see happen today. And maybe I'll just talk down about that later on the week, because it will be something worth talking about. But today, what I really wanted to focus on was something that I've been hearing a lot about. And I don't know how well you guys keep up with, what type of current event you guys keep up with. I know all of us have different things we like to educate ourselves on, and what we like to see what's going on around the world. And that's what's awesome about it. There's so many things that is going on around the world constantly, every single day. Everything's happening at once. Everything you could imagine someone is doing. And it's kind of cool. So we can always see what people are doing. And that's what also inspires us to do something. If we think of a really awesome idea, seeing somebody do it or knowing somebody has done it will actually help us push forward to like that dream, because we know it's possible. So when it comes to that, obviously you start get more attention. So people start digging in on who you really are. And what has really been sticking on me and what I'm thinking about is the scenario right now that's going on with, like, as you guys would know, actor, comedian Kevin Hart. I've seen a few things that people are talking about, and it's for the last few, I think it's been going on almost a whole month now. Should have really looked on when it first kicked on. But if you guys don't know, what's going on is Kevin Hart was going up for hosting the Oscars, and people started looking into his Twitter, and things came up of certain jokes he said on Twitter, and it, like, some people took it to heart. It's kind of funny saying Kevin Hart took it to heart, but like, it was, so I should have actually even written down the jokes, but really what the jokes consisted of was him expressing his views on like homosexuality. And obviously once you start talking about like sex, religion, everything, you start getting to touchy subjects, and people will like really start listening because they want to know, are you for it, are you against it? Doesn't matter to me. So going to what happened here was, if you guys think back on Kevin Hart's like comedy specials, I think it was Laughing at My Pain. He had a comedy skit where he was talking about his son doing certain things, and he was like going, "Stop, that's gay," and saying, and he went as far as saying that he was going to do whatever he could to make sure that his son didn't come out a homosexual, because as him, he's a heterosexual man. He would like his son to be a heterosexual man. So the comedy like skit goes on, and he says a few jokes. I'll be honest, I laughed throughout his whole Laughing at My Pain. I laughed, like everything he was saying. I was just laughing, because to me, those jokes in the script he had written for himself was pretty damn funny in my point of view. So I had a good time watching him, and I didn't think anything of it. He had a few more awesome comedy specials that came up until his most recent one that he like filled up a stadium. I think it was a football stadium, right? Yeah. And it led to a success. He had a lot of movies and everything. So we forgot about Laughing at My Pain, and all of a sudden things have been going on, and everyone's just on edge to see who is saying what and how. And they've come across like, oh, someone said something they didn't agree with in that sense. And when it came up that he was going to be hosting the Oscars, well, all of a sudden people were seeing that he had actually tweeted about that part of his act. And that's what really brought up the flame on fire. Now, I know he has also done a few other things that don't put him in a really good light, you know, being not honest to whoever he was married to or everything that is, one, not my business. So I won't talk about that. As well as you could also say people being mad at him and him stepping down from the Oscars is really not my business. But I felt like that was something worth talking about, because like I was saying, as I watched his act, I thought it was funny. I laughed. I didn't see something too wrong with it. Reason being is, as I was listening to these jokes, and I had, from what I had heard and seen of who Kevin Hart is, you hear his jokes, you're seeing he's not hurting no one. He's not actually going off stage and going out of his way to physically or emotionally or whatever hurt somebody. When he's on stage, he just goes on and tells his act, the script he wrote at home. He's been writing for however many months, and he gives you this act. So what blew me away is everyone's focusing that he brought it to light on Twitter. But if he hadn't, would we really be talking about it? And that's when I'm like, are we taking some things too serious? Because I grew up in a household where you could joke about a lot of things. At first, I would be kind of shocked sometimes by people around my family. They'd say something, you're like, you're not supposed to be saying that. And you get that weird smile of like, I would have said in public, like, don't do it again. But it's okay when you're with family. We can say it's okay because what I really think it comes down to is knowing where and when you can say things. Him as a comedian, I've never personally been up in a comedy stage, but as I've looked into like other lives of a few other comedians, and a lot of things they said is you got to learn how to read a crowd. So as you're saying jokes, you can see kind of how far you can go with a joke. So the way I'm thinking is they have a certain script, and you might not know he even has more jokes added on top, or on the spot he thinks of more jokes, but it really depends on the crowd. So what they do is they'll express their act, and based on what that crowd is doing, he's either going to keep going with the joke or go on to the next one, and that's what becomes the act. And from what we saw based on this comedy special, the success that comedy special had, a lot of people enjoyed that. A lot of people at that time, we were like, yo, he did a great job putting out, because basically he gave us a movie. He gave us like a little hour movie of Kevin Hart just saying whatever he could say to get a few laughs. And if you look at when he's in movies, it's not much different. I actually consume quite a bit of Kevin Hart's material. One, because I find it actually quite entertaining. It is quite funny the way him and his staff of writers, because I know obviously in other shows he's contributed to, he obviously has people who help him write these jokes. And with the team he's had, if you take even just like the Real Housewives of Real House Husbands of Hollywood, something like that, they made a funny show like ripping off the Real Housewives of Hollywood. But it was funny, and if you see the comedians he got around him, they all had like a shocking factor here and there throughout the show. And that's what gave the show like its own identity. Like, and that's what really comes out is they want to give themselves a way to stand out. So when they're doing that craft, it's not really like he's going out to say these things and then going off stage and driving those views. And that's, to me, is what the difference is, and why I feel like it's a really important topic that we talk about and get other people's perspective. Because obviously, as I'm focused on his jokes are towards like a homosexual LGBT community. So, as me, I'm not really in the community, but I'm not against the community. So when he says those jokes, they don't affect me. The way I think about it is even like when someone says like a Mexican joke to me, there's a few that are really, really, really funny. There's a few that aren't funny, whether they're offensive or not. I'm going to laugh depending on how it's delivered, the content is delivered in. And that's why I appreciate comedy, because I feel like we can take some serious situations, or we can take and make light of people not agreeing with one another. Because when we take that not agreeing with one another, and let's say someone told me a Mexican joke that was like super racist, whether it came from someone that was racist or not, or someone that wasn't racist, they would just went like, man, someone really racist would probably say this. That's funny. I'm going to try saying it to someone else. And they shared it with me, depending on how the joke is, I'm going to find it funny, not find it funny. But if I don't find it funny, I'm not going to sit there and be like, yo, you're the worst person in the world. You're probably just like Satan. What is wrong with you? Why would you say something like that? I'd be like, nah, I don't really find that funny. Try working the joke. If you heard that somewhere, then that comedian joke just sucks. I have the right to think it sucks, but I don't have the right to think someone sucks for doing the joke. And I have that mentality again because I grew up in a different household where things were said that was just like, man, that's just kind of messed up. And we did consume a lot of those kind of things. I remember also growing up, even watched like Mind of Mencia, and that was a Hispanic comedian. I think he was Hispanic. I know there's controversy with him, whatever. Him was stealing jokes. Obviously, you don't want to steal things, so that was a whole different thing. But when we watched his comedy, he would say some jokes that were even racist towards like the Hispanic community. And I myself am Hispanic. I'm watching. I was laughing as hard as I could because it's like, yo, I can see how someone can come up with those expectations based off what we do. So it's funny that you put it in that context. It's funny. It really does come down to it's funny. Now I understand some of you guys obviously are not going to find the humor in it. Again, it's going to be your right to have that opinion that that's not my taste of humor, find a different comedian. And the reason I wanted to keep talking about it is it goes back to that point. I don't think he's really doing it to drive like a negative view, negative opinion to that. He's not really trying to hurt anyone by saying these things. And the reason I think about it is because we are only focusing on things he has said. Sometimes he has hurt people. It's obviously, again, it goes back to his relationship things. That's not for us to be really in about. Whatever we do take interest in what he's doing, we're like, oh man, shouldn't be doing that. You know, we kind of look up to you when you see people doing that. You're like, that's messed up, but whatever. Now, if he's actually physically hurting people, if he's actually going out of his way to make sure these people are having a roughest day of their life forever, okay, now I would agree that we have a problem. Now we have to look at, knock that off. Maybe go as far as try and take things that he's doing, but it has to be a point where there's actual harm, I believe. And the way I would look at it is there's obviously a ton of comedians. And another one that recently took a lot of heat was like things like Louis C.K. With finding out what he was doing to people and like cornering and doing, from what I read and heard, that's what was going on. And he stepped out of the light. So when you hear those things, you're like, no, you have two comedians who had really, really successful acts who have done and always, because between them two, they have said things that made you kind of open your eyes and go, damn. And then they'll go farther with it. And then they'll even joke around like, really, I only went that far because I know it's going to bother you. And they know it's going to be a hit and miss with like a quarter of the community. And then the 3/4 of the community is going to enjoy that joke. But that is part of their job. They know what they're getting themselves into in that sense. And so once you actually hear that those people are actually acting on what they're saying, now we have an issue. And that's why it does come back to that Louis C.K. thing, I believe. He did have a lot of wrongs. He was doing things that was actually affecting people physically that he was doing. Yes, he had a lot of messed up jokes. To me, a lot of them were funny. But when you see who he is outside of his act, then I think we can focus on judging the person. You know, we can't really judge them based on their act because same thing, Kevin Hart could have been in a different role, a role that forces him to be like racist towards any other race. I don't just want to throw white out there because that's the obvious fight, but you could have him as a, obviously playing still a black male that's racist against Mexicans. That is honestly true. I know I've met some Mexicans that are racist against the black people. I've met Mexicans that are racist with white people. Mexicans that are racist towards like Muslims and stuff, like in that religion. Everyone you'll kind of find here and there doesn't like the taste of certain thing. We have that right, but we don't have the right to physically harm them for that fact. You know, that's wrong. That's where we actually hit that brick of, okay, now we got to talk about what is truly going on. And I think that's what it comes down to. Are we being too serious? Are you taking what something was meant to be counted as joke? And again, I understand not all jokes should be said everywhere or maybe at all, but some people enjoy it, some will not. So it really comes down to, if it's not your taste, you have the right to back out, make sure you just don't consume it. And I feel like we should leave it at that. We shouldn't try to stomp people down just because they don't agree with you. That's like saying, if you don't listen to the same type of music, I'm gonna make sure your type of music doesn't succeed. If I don't like your style of how you draw or paint, I'm gonna make sure that your style doesn't succeed. That's absurd. And that's what it comes down to. You could argue the same thing with video games, and that's why I'm so passionate about video games. And I will bring up other topics about those, because some people can argue that these games will more likely create you more violent than these games. And that's not true. We can't be trying to force someone down because that's their form of creativity. Same thing with movies. There's some adults who love making child films, and then there's some adults who create really, really gory films. And again, me, myself, I enjoy both of them. Now, there's some that are really gory and nasty. I'm like, too far, rather not. But I'm not going to shun this person down because they decided to go that extra step that I'm not willing to be comfortable with. So it just comes down to, what are you comfortable with? But let's not make sure we're always just trying to bash each other down just because we don't agree. I think the fact that we don't agree is what makes the world so much more awesome and makes us a lot more interesting. Again, I always focus on the fact that if we were all the same, everything would be a lot more boring. Everything would be so like stale. I don't know if you guys, again, going back to cartoons, if you guys have watched like the Fairy Odd Parents episode, there was one where I think Timmy Wrights just said he wants everybody to be the same, and everybody ended up this like gray blob. Ended up becoming a boring world. Everyone was doing the same thing, looked the same, everything. You realize how much like flavor we lose. It's like cooking some plain white rice or cooking some rice with some spices on it. You can make it really, really flavorful, or you can just make it rice. Some people just enjoy regular rice, and some people like adding a ton of flavoring to the rice. It is okay. It doesn't mean you're wrong or you're wrong. It's just what we enjoy. So I think that's something we are going to continue to talk about, especially this year, especially with everything that's been going on. But yeah, that's what's been going on in my mind. I hope you guys had an awesome Wednesday. Don't forget to always keep up. I will update you guys when we'll be going live through Facebook. I'll try to get better, setting up a time and everything. So this last few days has just been interesting. A lot of awesome things happen. So have an awesome Wednesday. Don't forget to subscribe onto this channel, so then you also get a notification when we go live if you don't see it through YouTube. Through Facebook, or otherwise Facebook, Instagram, and I keep the updates coming up. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you guys tomorrow.